Yay! You've got the live stream running somehow.
Yeah.
I can hear myself and see myself, and it's interesting. But anyhow, congratulations everyone and welcome everyone who joined. We've managed to start the live stream on YouTube. So yay to that. We still have 3 minutes to go before we can officially start the meeting. Super nice to see everyone joining already. So, yeah. Okay, it's already 3 p.m. So let me start with saying hello again to everyone who joined us today. Um, First of all, a little note, this part of the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. This will happen for the demo because we want to allow people who are not able to attend to be able to see the recording later if they want to migrate something. So yeah, there's that. After the demo part is over, we will have some questions and answers time. And for that, we will turn off the live stream so you're comfortable to discuss whatever you want to discuss. Let me, first of all, present Rebecca, a Checkmk developer, a person who knows everything more or less about how to create plugins and because that's what she does. And yeah, so you're in very capable hands today. This is the first meeting out of a series of meetings, a series of developer hours, where we want to support every Checkmk plugin developer in migrating plugins to the newer version, because starting with 2.4, the older 2.0, I think, version of the developer APIs will not be supported anymore. So so this is that's that. And I want to support you as much as possible. So yeah, if you have any questions about the contents of the demo that Rebecca will be doing, you can ask those questions more or less during this part of the meeting. For more specific, more like, hey, I've got this problem kind of questions, please stay with us till the questions and answers part, where we would be just discussing your specific case. And yeah, I think that's enough of me just like talking about nothing. I'm giving the mic to Rebecca, and yeah, let's start.
Yes, thank you for the nice intro, Sarah. So as Sarah said, this is supposed to be a demo of migrating an example plugin or plugins rather. And for this, we will be migrating this MKP from the Checkmk Exchange, the Windows Defender MKP. And as you can see here, this was built with Checkmk version 2.0. And if you will not out in the 2.4 beta version, you will notice that it's no longer work. And this is what we will try to fix today. For that, I have prepared 2 example sites. So this is a before version. This is a 2.3, where the MKP still works. You can see here that I have it enabled, installed and enabled. And if we look at what it does, I have some static example data coming in, and we see that there is a service here outputting some data. And we also see that it's not configurable, at least the check plugin itself is not configurable. But what is configurable is if we look at the agent rules, you can see here that I have already configured something. We have a bakery plugin where I can choose to deploy this plugin or not. So this will be basically something we can compare against. And then I have a second site. This is a 2.4. And you see that here is nothing installed. So this is where we will put the newly updated files, and then hopefully everything will work. All right, let's take a look at the code. So what I did is basically I extracted all the files out of the MKP and put them in places in our repo where I normally would put them if Checkmk was actually developing this MKP itself or the checks within itself. And we will have a look in what to do with them and where to put them. But first, what is actually the content? We already talked a bit or we already saw in the UI but we have this agent plugin, this PowerShell script, which creates some WinDefender sections as output. We have a man page. We have, as we saw, a bakery plugin. So here where the actual files are collected, and then the configuration and then we also have the check plugin itself. And we're going to start with the check plugin. So here you see in the import that there's actually an import from API version 1. So here we are actually fairly up to date. Version 1 and version 2 of the agent-based API don't differ that much, but there are some differences, and that's what I want to show you. But first, I will actually make this file discoverable as a Python file. So that's interpreted as a Python file. And then I want to make these imports explicit, because then it's a bit easier to see what actually changes between version 1 and version 2. So from CMK agent-based version 1, I will import the service we see below. We see here a result and a state that I need. And if we scroll a bit down, we see this register function, which we also need. All right, now we have everything imported. What I also want to do is actually add some typing for these functions. So this is not strictly necessary for the execution, but it helps me to develop, because if the input and outputs as I declared them are consistent. So I know that the input here is a string table. We will get to also why I know this. They are just a bit more hidden under type defs. There we have a string table. So this is how the data comes in from the agent plugin. And this is this data here for now, and also the data coming into the check. And then I know that the discover function outputs a discovery result. And I know that the check function outputs a check result. All right. So just as a note, this is mostly about changing these kinds of things, the input or the output, on formality things. I will not be changing anything inside the check itself, because, well, that's up to the tech developer. This is only about migrating, conforming to the new APIs. All right, so now we have everything imported from version 1, and now I will just change this to version 2. Put everything from here and see what it complains about, and we immediately see that it complains about this register function. It doesn't know it anymore. And this is due to the fact that this is a change between version 1 and version 2, or actually one of the biggest changes, that the plugins are no longer, Checkmk no longer knows about these check plugins because we registered them explicitly, but it's a discovery-based approach. So what I need to do is declare a variable here, which needs to start with this check plugin prefix, otherwise it won't be discovered. And then I will actually create a check plugin. This check plugin we can also just import from here, and the register I will already take away. Otherwise, the check plugin will get the same arguments as this register check plugin function. So we still have our name, the service name, discovery, and check function. And just as a note, this is not completely the original formatting, as I just formatted all these files, so that's a bit nicer to see in case you're looking at the original NKP and wondering why it looks a bit different. But okay, other than that, we are basically finished with the migration of the check plugin itself, because there's nothing my IDE complains about. We already have a valid discovery result that's being output here of the discovery function, and valid check results that the check function outputs. But what I will add in addition, because it's you should basically, before I said, I know that this is a string table which gets in. But this is sort of implicit. You don't currently actually really know where the data comes from. And this is something I want to make explicit. And I do know that the data comes from this agent, and that it has this WinDefender section. So I'm getting an agent section. And then I'm also creating another agent section here. It again has to have this agent section underscore prefix. And then I declare the actual agent section. You see my IDE is already quite smart and suggests a lot of things, and that's true. The name is WinDefender, the same as is specified here, and I will specify a parse function. And this is just some pre-processing that is applied to the data that comes in from the agent itself. And since before we didn't have one, we know that there is actually no pre-processing happening. So we also will not be doing anything fancy here. We will just say, well, we get a string table in, because I know that this is definitely the output of the agent itself, but we will not be doing anything with it and just returning the original data. All right, and now we have it explicit where the data comes from and what happens to it. Okay, this is about the content of the check plugin, or the content of the file. Where does the file need to go? And there are also some changes in that regard for the APIs. And what I will first do, I will actually move this file to somewhere in our repo to show you a bit the organization here. And then we move it over to the site. So the new organization of these new API-based plugins is that we have this plugin folder, and beneath it we have a family or folder. So under there's a family of plugins. And what does that mean? Well, a family is something or contains plugins that can share code amongst each other. If you don't want to share code, you can also just say, well, I want to package an MKP and that's my family. So in our case, I know that I want to create this WinDefender MKP. So I will also just create a new directory here. And under there, I have to actually specify what kind of plugin will be moved here. So in our case, this is an agent-based plugin. And since I already know we have some other things, I will create some more folders here. So I also know from before that we had a man page. So here we have a Checkmk, and we have a rule set for the bakery. And now I actually have to look it up if that's rule set or rule sets. And how I do this is I look in the site under help plugin API references. There is how the plugins are supposed to be formatted or where they're supposed to be located, and also in which folders they're supposed to go. And we see rule sets are actually under rule sets and not rule set. So let's do that. Then I will already just move all the files in the corresponding folders, just so that we have them in one space and can work with them. And this, as I said, is the WinDefender check plugin that we just worked on, the man page, and the rule set. So they're just now here. This we just did. This is finished. The man page is also just supposed to go in the correct location. Otherwise, the content stays the same. Now the rule set, and that's a bit more interesting. And I actually noticed I accidentally renamed this file, which was not my intention. I'll have a quick look how it was originally named. And that was this. Okay. This CE mistake I just did is due to the fact that I actually meant to put it in a CEE folder, because the agent bakery is only available for the CE. So I need to actually move the file in here. so that it does not lead to import errors. And so we see how edition handling is actually also handled within this plugin folder structure. These are available for everything. This is only available for CE and upwards. Okay, let's migrate the Ruleset. And first I will just remove all the plugin imports because we won't be needing them. And then we will go to the registration of the rule spec. So again, we see this registration-based approach here, which is changed to a discovery-based approach in the new API. So again, specific prefix rule spec, and then I need the specific rule spec, what kind this actually is. And here we have a hint. We see that in the old world, we registered something with this prefix agent config. So I know, well, yes, I'm trying to configure an agent. And in the new world, I can import this from CMK Rulesets version 1 rule specs. And here I have an agent config available, among, of course, other things. Would look through what actually fits, but in my case, I know this is the agent config. Okay, the agent config needs a name. This is now just WinDefender without this agent config prefix because we already have this specified here. Then the agent config also needs a title. This specification before didn't have one, but we need one here. And here I will just use the title of the actual import configuration because this was how it was done implicitly anyway, that basically the outermost title was used. And now I will just make it explicit and move it to the right place. This marker here, which marks that the string can be translated, is also being replaced in the new world. And for this, we have a specific marker. Also in Ruleset's version 1, I can import a title. And this serves the same purpose, knows that this can be translated. Then here we have a group. A group in the new world is called a topic. And we can look at the available topics and here in RuleSpec's topic. There we have some for consideration. Since I now know where it was previously located or which group it previously belonged to, I do know which topic to choose here. But in general, this topic is responsible in categorizing the rule inside the UI. So if we look at the old world and look at the agent rules here, basically specifies under which of these categories the rule will be located. And we see that previously it was here. And this general agent plugins category is applications in the new world. We also would have Windows here, which could make sense for Windows Defender, but to be consistent with how it was previously categorized or located, I will leave it like this. Okay, this is mostly this part. We only need to now actually transform the input here, the actual input specification. And for this, we have a parameter form. The form specs, as they're being called, are replacing these old value specs. So I will create a new function here. And one thing we will notice if we look at what this expects, this says it expects a dictionary. And as you can see here, this is not a dictionary. This is some kind of, it's a drop-down choice. And this is new in the new APIs, that all the outermost form specs, so what you immediately return in this function as the outermost layer, that needs to be a dictionary, just so that we internally have some consistency. We know, okay, everything that arrives, is being consumed later on at some point, at least has a mapping-based form. So we need to transform this a bit more. So this dictionary, where does it come from? From Ruleset version 1 form specs. Here are all the things necessary for these kind of configurations in the parameter form function. Here we get the dictionary, and then let's start to build it. And here we have mostly the elements we want to specify. In this case, only one element, which will be this actual selection. So the elements always are a key value pair. So I will just choose some key here. I know that this is about deployment, so I will name the key after that. And the value of this element is a dict element. And in here, I now actually specify this, this configuration. Now we have to choose, because this drop-down choice doesn't exist like this anymore. Can't import it from here. What specifically doesn't exist is something where I choose between different types of values. So here I either have a Boolean value or I have a none that I choose. And the only thing that I have for selection as a key is now a string, actually. I can only have something like this in the new world. I can have a selection where in the end the value I chose will be a Boolean value, for example, but the actual identifier will be a string. I could also use something called a Boolean choice. That's basically a checkbox, but I know how this looked before, and I want to keep close to the previous visualization. So what I'm going to do is to choose a single choice, it's called. So this means I can make a choice, but I can only choose one option. So it's a unique choice, which is what we want here. This single choice also has elements. They're also called single choice elements. And these are the elements that we have here, the actual choices. So we have a name, it's called here. This is the identifier. So we have to think of something that represents this true or deploy option. So I will just call it deploy. And then there's a title. So how is this option being represented in the UI? This is just this title here above. And then the second option, where I do not want to deploy the plugin, I will just call do not deploy. Okay, something's missing. So here I also want to have a predefined choice that that's already been shown, because if we look here in how it was before, we see that there is, actually, let me show it with a fresh rule. We see that there's something pre-selected. This deploy option is pre-selected. And that's what I want to do here as well. So I will say this choice already pre-filled. There's already sort of a choice being made. And the default value is the deploy option. Otherwise, what would show up is are these two options, and then a third one which says please choose, which of course is not a valid choice, so you couldn't save the rule as is. Okay, this is this choice. What I also want to have is this help. For the to mark the help text as translatable, we again have a specific marker for this. That's now called help, which we can import along with the title. And I will add the help text here. Okay. And then I already know I want to make some cosmetic improvements here as well, actually, because if I have this dictionary like this, if you ever developed African, you will know that this will represent as a checkbox that I have to click on, and then if I enable this, this configuration will actually show. And that's not very close to what we had before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dictionary element is required. So there's no choice on whether to enable or disable this checkbox. It will not be shown. And I can, yes, what this means, I require this key to be present in the data that is being sent to the consumer. It's being present in my data model always. And one other small improvement I'm going to make is to add a title here, because otherwise it's going to look a bit weird without the title we took away before. That's not something you have to do, of course. But now we have, sorry, here the title in the single choice. All right. This would work if I would just write a new bakery rule set. But the problem is, of course, we already had some configuration before, and well, it looked different than this one. So if I try to load the rule value that was stored with something like this into this, well, there will be problems. So what I need to do is I need to add a migration. And I will add a migrate function here for this. I know that I want to migrate to a dictionary, so some sort of mapping-based type. And I'm getting something in here, which I don't really know what it could be. And then I'm just going to look through what could possibly come in. So as we saw before, one of the options is that none was selected, so which now corresponds to our do not deploy option. So what I will return is this outer dictionary with this key as a key, and then the selection we want to have this identifier here. Then the deploy case, which is case true. And again, we want to have this dictionary, but in this case, we want to have the deploy option set. And then we want to handle if it's already in a form we want to have. So this is already a dictionary. Then I will just return what was given. And in any other case, this is an error case, I will raise and value error because I don't know what to do with this. Okay, this is the full migrated Ruleset, as if I hadn't forgotten anything, hopefully. We'll see. Now, we also know that actually, like I said, this data model changed. So we will have to have a look in the actual, where this configuration is actually used in this bakery plugin. Here, we don't really change anything about the register function just because this is not completely consistent with the other APIs. The bakery API is not, was not updated. So this stays like it is, but we will have a look at this. So this configuration, we want to actually deal with the case that somebody selected do not deploy. So here I know that usually I will get something like this. So I will get the deployment key. I will handle the case that it's for some reason is not in there, which it shouldn't be, but let's be careful. If it's not there, then we will go with not to deploy it. And if this option is not deployed, then we don't do anything. Otherwise, we actually return this code, this file here, the actual agent file to deploy. And those are all the changes that I needed to make as far as I know. So let's try it out. For this, we need to move everything into the site. Let me close this. Okay. Okay, let's actually start with what we have created here. So here we have already a folder structure that we can just copy over into the site. One thing I know which probably won't work is actually this part. This will cause problems with the CE. So now I actually have to somehow tell the Python interpreter that this is something to use. And what I need to add here is an init file. We'll add this at some places, so definitely needs to be here. We'll also add it into the Ruleset folder. So here and into the Windows Defender folder. Okay. And here I will just make this import explicit. Ah, this is not named correctly. Yes, okay, now it's being found. Okay. And specify that this is something that can be used. Okay. Now I will just take this whole folder structure and copy it over to the site, and we can look at which location needs to be used. Here we see that third-party plugins are placed under local lib Python 3 Checkmk add-ins plugins. And under this plugins, we have the same folder structure as here. And for that, we can copy this path into our site. And now let's steal this path. And we were going to have a problem with this in a second, but we're going to fix it because this path, of course, doesn't exist yet. But here I want to copy like this. Okay, yes, it does. Oh, actually, I need to copy the whole folder anyway. Because I copied the whole folder, so that works. Okay, then I did not need to create the actual folder structure in the site. Okay, this was everything that was that conforms to the new APIs. What we still need to copy is the agent plugin itself and the bakery plugin that we didn't move. Where do we have it? Here. So these go to a bit different places, which can be also seen here. In the docu, we have the path where everything needs to go. And this I will just copy over so we don't have to sit through that. So yeah, you see we copy the agent plugin to local share Checkmk agents Windows plugins, and we copy the bakery plugin to local Checkmk base CE plugins bakery. Yes, and now we actually do need to create the respective folders. So this one and this one. Okay, then we should have all the files there that we need. And now we just need to change the permissions. Because we copied everything over via root. So let's fix the permissions again for everything under local. Okay, and now we just need to build our MKP. We look here at the unpackaged files. We see everything that was that we could copy over under CMK plugins. We see the agent and we see the bakery plugin. And here I will be a bit shorter. Then copy everything over here. And great. And I believe since I now just created the MKP, I didn't really install and enable it. I will restart the site to be sure that everything is actually being updated. Okay,
Maybe
let's have a look.
Sorry, there is a lot of question, but I think we can come back to it.
Yes, I'm also almost finished. I just want to show if this actually works, hopefully. Let's run the discovery here. yes, we now have a new service, which is the Windows Defender. And hopefully we also have here under agent rules, Windows Defender, yes. And you see here how it looks now. We have this drop down with this new title. And yes, that's it. That's everything I wanted to show for this migration. Then I
Thank
think
you
we
so
can,
much.
thank you. Then I think we can move to questions.
So I have a little question that is coming from the live stream. Tim is asking what VS Code plugins you're using. We need a list.
I'm not using VS Code, so I'm using PyCharm. I mean, I can actually show just what I have installed, I suppose, which are some things. Actually, I have disabled a lot of things. For example, I disabled Copilot for this demonstration. Otherwise, most things work already out of the box for PyCharm. These kind of checkers. So we have some formatting in that we want to apply to our code in our repos. We want to check the types. As I showed you, these input and output type specification we check with MyPy. Yeah, this formatting with rough. Basically, if so, I I do have some plugins installed, but mostly I actually rely on the configuration that we have in our repo, which you can also see. And you can actually, I think that's available to you as well. I'm actually not quite sure if the scripts folders is available in Checkmk and the GitHub repository. Yes. There are scripts you can run to basically here, for example, run format to format the code, run MyPy to check the typing. And this is what I mostly use. And otherwise just PyCharm.
Oh, thank you. There is already like a little discussion on what plugins people use on VS Code. So that's what's happening in the live stream. But maybe someone from the call from Zoom are ready to ask questions about the demo. Again, please note that this will be streamed and recorded to YouTube. If you're not feeling comfortable, you can just ask those questions after we turn off the live stream. On the other hand, I think we could just cover this one question that we received in the document before the call.
That was when to use migrations, or can you?
Wait, yeah, let me quickly check it because I don't want to say something wrong here. And yeah, migrate functions when to use.
Okay. I mean, I think we saw an example today because we used migrate in the rule set that I just need to find again. Here we have a migrate. So just in general, you always need a migrate function if you have something stored on disk that does not conform to what you defined here. So as we saw before, we had just the single choice, and if you create a rule with this and then store it to file, you will see that the selected value was basically just true or none, just like the options were with this drop-down choice. And now we have this bigger environment here. And so we already know, okay, we need a migration there. To know exactly if the types mismatch, if the data model has changed, if you look into the doku of these various form specs, you will see that you see here the consumer model tells you, yeah, what kind of model will be actually stored to disk. And for here we have a dictionary, the string is key, and then some kind of value, which is dependent on what we actually specify here. So we need to look here, what are our elements and what is the possible type of these elements. So here, for example, we see that the consumer model of such a single choice is just a string. So together we have basically a dictionary of string. And this is also what we see here, for example. Oh, this is our data model. And yes, as I said before, I know that I just stored true or none, and that obviously is not the same as a mapping from string to string. So I need a migration. And actually figuring out, of course, what is my previous data model or the possible data models and what is the new one is a bit tricky. I hope with the new API, it's a bit easier because we explicitly state the consumer model here, and you should be able to assemble your end consumer model from this. But the values you already stored on this, the rules you already save, what kind of data model they have, it's a bit trickier. You might just need to try it out, for example, with such a migrate function and log what the actual value is here. I don't know if that answers the question. I don't know if the person who asked that is here in the call.
I mean, I also hope it answered the question. The person did not leave their name, so I cannot really tell, but yeah, I guess it will have to do. So,
Yeah.
And anyway, if we do not have any demo specific question right now, one last call for demo specific questions.
I would have an additional question on the metrics, because the metrics were not in API before, and now we do have a graphing API. And specifically about the translation of the colors, it's been quite of a hassle for us, because earlier they were in a non-defined, not really defined. They were just like numbers, and now we do have classes for the colors of metrics. Is there any kind of translation on how to properly migrate those?
To be honest, I have to have a look. What we do have, I don't know if you're aware, are these migration helpers on our repository. So
yeah, I tried using those, but they did not work in the 2.4 beta version.
all right. Let me actually have a look what we do here. We do have here. Migration helpers. And this graphing would be the case. But if they do not work in the 2.4, then I would also not expect it to. Also, I don't think that's a 2.4 specific problem, but more about the API itself. And this color to RPG, that does not work for you.
The whole script actually does not work. It crashes directly with the traceback when executing that in the 2.4 beta.
Okay. Yeah, it does not work for all plugins. The migration helpers are not official tools, of course, but we can have a look at what this actually does. Perhaps that helps you. If I can copy this. But that doesn't help you because this is about the old colors.
I think this is the other way around.
Yeah. Otherwise, I also have to have a look through this, to be honest. If we have an automatic conversion. I don't immediately see it, so I can have a better look. But basically reverse engineering this, but that's also not very helpful. So yeah, I don't know of an immediate function that does that, and would have to take a look and get back to you.
Okay. And regarding the migration helpers, do you plan to do any further work on them, or are they just as is? Because currently they are not working, as I mentioned.
We do work on them basically when we use them and notice something is wrong and then update them, but they are not something really officially supported. They're basically nice to have because we often use them, but there's no official development plan for them.
Okay.
I think that at this point, and after 53 minutes already of the call and of the demo, we can stop the demo part. So we'll stop the live stream right now. People on the call, if you have questions that you would like to ask, please stay on the call. We'll still have questions and answers, but I think that this is the end of the live stream part, of the recorded part. Thank you everyone who joined the live stream, who asked questions. I will do my best to try and share the files on the thread in the forum that I've left the link to. And yeah, maybe the question about the colors will also be answered there. So yeah, let's stay in touch. There will be other sessions. So for now, thank you for everyone who joined the live stream. Everyone who's on call in Zoom, please feel free to stay and to ask the questions. So we're continuing in the